If you've never sailed before, packing for a cruise it can actually be a little bit daunting. That's because a cruise it's a unique vacation. Where else do you have to pack for the pool and the theater and formal dining and walking around in port and all sorts of other situations? There's plenty to pack for your trip, but there are some things that you should just leave at home. Still, many people make the mistake of taking them along, so I'll tell you what they are right now. It makes sense that if you're going on vacation to relax, bringing along a little something to smoke or a gummy, that can help out a little bit. Meanwhile, marijuana, it's legal in lots of states, including several that cruises sail from. That means you can bring it along with you, right? In fact, marijuana is illegal at the federal level, not to mention the countries where your cruise might sail, and for that reason, cruise lines ban it from their ships. That even goes if you're sailing from a spot like Washington to Alaska, both of which are legal states. Still, lots of people do try to bring it on board. It's gotten to the point to where some lines like Carnival, they will have drug sniffing dogs at check-in to alert to the smell. I personally was in a terminal in California when a person in line was alerted to by the dog. And on other trips, I've had to line up against a wall with other people, and the dog makes a run down the entire line just checking us out. It's not a lot of fun, to be honest. Just know that it is not allowed on the ship, whether it's CBD or marijuana or gummies or rolls or D9 or any of the other concoctions. Just leave it at home. If you sail on a ship that's more than 15 years old, you might find that it wasn't really built with modern life in mind. Specifically, while we all have tons of electronics, older ships, they may have as little as a single plug outlet. Thankfully, newer ships, they come with a lot more outlets, so it's no issue. But if you're sailing on those older ships, then you might want to pack a multi-plug outlet adapter with you. And most lines, they are fine with that, except for one major carrier. I'm talking about Royal Caribbean. They updated their prohibited items list a while back to add in outlet adapters as something that you can't bring anymore. To me, it seems kind of restrictive, but the rules are rules. Now, typically, most cruise lines only outlaw extra plugs if they happen to have a surge protector on them, as this can evidently mess up the ship's electrical system. Royal Caribbean rules, however, they make no distinction. It just says that the multi-plug outlets, they're not allowed. Do you remember that time that you played your music in a public place on a cruise and everyone loved hearing it? That's right, it has never ever happened. That's because no matter how good you think your taste in music is, strangers don't want to hear it. Now, imagine being on a ship with thousands of strangers. So, while you might want to pack that speaker to play some tunes, think twice. At least Carnival has banned all Bluetooth speakers from the ship to combat the problem. Even if you wanted to pack it just so you could play some music in your cabin while you're hanging out, it's technically not allowed. Most lines, however, they will still let you bring them on, just please don't play them in public places. I personally like to play music in the cabin, but even when I do, I still keep it down to the point that there's no way anyone outside of the cabin could hear it. Only if they were in the room with me could they listen. If you're taking a cruise, you might want to pack a bottle of wine or champagne. Packing other alcohol, however, it is a no-go, but that doesn't stop some people from trying. I'll be honest, selling beer and liquor is big business on a cruise ship. Prices can run $8 for a beer and $14 for a cocktail, so it's only natural that you would want to bring your own, but it's simply not allowed. Cruise lines have strict rules against packing beer or liquor with you when you sail. Now, if you do try to pack it with you at embarkation, it will be confiscated. Some lines, they simply toss the stuff. Others may hold it until you return and then give it back to you. And if you try to sneak it on, it is possible, but there aren't many tricks that the security hasn't seen before. That said, if you're in port and you buy a local beer or alcohol, like a bottle of tequila in Mexico, say, you can bring it back on board with you. It will be tagged and then held by the staff and then returned to you on the last night of the cruise. But actually smuggling it on, sure, plenty of people try, maybe some are successful, but it's generally not a great idea. Cruise lines have a major advantage over flying in that you can essentially pack as much as you want without any baggage fees. One thing you shouldn't do, however, is take that to the extreme, and you folks know who you are. I've seen passengers come aboard with multiple massive suitcases for a simple 7-day cruise. Really, all you need is a carry-on if you're headed to the Caribbean. Yet, I see people with huge and multiple suitcases all the time. Absolutely, it is allowed, but the problem with packing too much is that you have to manage all of it. That means lugging it to the port, especially if you are flying in, then dealing with large suitcases in a small cabin, and having all of that stuff, that clutter in your cabin, which is pretty small, and then having to pack it all up and carry it back home. It's much easier just to simply pack an appropriate amount for your trip. Similar to how you can pack large suitcases on a cruise, another perk is that you don't have to worry about the size of the liquids that you bring. You can bring an entire shampoo bottle with you if you want, or entire containers of sunscreen or toothpaste. You don't have to worry about the 3-ounce rule. For multiple reasons, however, I would suggest never packing full-size liquids. First, if you're flying, you still have to deal with the airline rules that limit you to containers with 3 ounces or less. Now, you can pack more if you check your luggage, but if you aren't checking bags, then your large items are going to get tossed. Second, unless you're sailing for a long trip, you just don't need full-size containers. By packing them, you're just adding weight and taking up space in your luggage. Putting what you need in smaller containers and then packing them, that is way more efficient. Finally, the more liquid that you pack, the bigger the risk if something does spill. If you have an entire bottle of shampoo and it were to open in your luggage, I know I'd much rather have it just be 3 ounces than 30 ounces over everything else that I brought. Finally, you'll find that tons of people, they pack their birth certificate to cruise. I suggest never doing that and opting instead for a passport. Yes, you absolutely can sail with the birth certificate, and it's certainly convenient in that you don't have to go through the cost and the hassle to get a passport. That can be more than $100 for a single person, and it can also take you weeks to get if you're on a schedule. But the passport, it gives you so much more flexibility. Should something come up during your cruise and you need to fly home from a port of call, it's way easier to do that with a passport as your travel document. Honestly though, that's not a big concern for most passengers, and it's not something that I personally worry about. Where I like the passport is that it's much easier to get out of the cruise terminal at the end of the trip. Passport holders, they typically just have to take a photo and then they're on their way out the door. It can take literally minutes from the ship to the street. Birth certificate holders, they often have to wait in line to meet with the border agent, which can take a lot longer. Thank you for watching, and if you've ever traveled with something that you shouldn't have, what was it? Put it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, then of course I hope that you'll like and subscribe, and be sure to visit Cruzely.com for more on everything cruising, including packing tips. Until next time, happy sailing.